Since the inception of college football in 1869, there's been some truly remarkable and jaw-dropping performance by athletes across the country. From Patrick Mahomes' single-game record of 819 yards to Troy Edwards' 405-yard receiving game record, this doesn't even tip the scale of insane records of the last century and a half of college football games. Well, today you can kiss those records goodbye because I am breaking 25 of these NCAA records in college football 25. Say goodbye to the likes of great college football talent like Joe Burrow, Barry Sanders, and Mike Prindle, because I'm going to be shattering these records and putting my name in the record books. So sit back, relax, and watch these long-standing NCAA records be broken in a video game. I divided these records into different categories, starting off with the quarterback category. Can we beat the record of 11 touchdown passes in a game, or even 6 touchdown passes on 6 consecutive throws? Let's hop into our first game, West Virginia versus Penn State, where quarterback Garrett Green will be attempting to break as many of these records as he can. I know you guys want to sit here and watch every single play, but let me just speed this up for you. Garrett Green just set an NCAA record with 953 yards and 12 passing touchdowns in one single game. Not only that, but he had 520 yards in the first half alone, so we knocked out 3 of these records in our first game. Unfortunately, none of West Virginia's wide receivers broke any records, so we move over to Boulder, Colorado, where elite wide receiver Travis Hunter is determined to shatter these records once and for all. We have 22 records left to break, so let's see what Coach Prime's team can do. As you can imagine, this wasn't too hard facing North Dakota State. I could have thrown it blindfolded to Travis Hunter and still came down with it. So it's no surprise that after the first quarter, Sanders and Hunter connected for 480 yards, breaking both of these records. But we had 3 more records that we could break in this game if we played well enough. Luckily, it only took 2 more completions to get Travis Hunter into the end zone, which broke the record for receiving touchdowns in a single game. And also, Shedur's passer rating was off the charts. So 4 records broken in this game with 1 more to go. All it took was completing slant routes over and over to Travis Hunter, where we made it to a total of 29 completions to only him, so that breaks the single game completion record. With 8 records down, 17 to go, I decided it was time to recruit the help of the SEC, where Vanderbilt's quarterback, who rushed for 104 yards in their game against Virginia Tech, is going to take on these rushing quarterback records. Every play in this game pretty much looked the same. I would drop back, and then find a hole and take off. After 2 rushes, we already had 55 yards, but we also need to get in the end zone 8 times to beat this record. So we rushed for 4 touchdowns and 329 yards so far, but we still need 5 more touchdowns to get the rushing touchdown record. My plan was simple. In order to get the receiving yards without touchdown trophy, I would get both by throwing to the same receiver just to get close enough to let my QB run it in. What I didn't realize was Vanderbilt's receivers cannot catch at all. Regardless, I was able to get into the end zone a couple more times and eventually score my 8th rushing touchdown of the game. Hey, real quick, I'm aiming to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you're enjoying the videos, make sure to subscribe. Also, I've just launched a Discord server where the community can talk about college football, share game clips and parlays, and we'll even be doing some giveaways in the future. So if that sounds cool, check out the link in the description. Now back to the video. So 10 records down, 15 to go. I think it's time to take a break from the quarterback records and give the ball to the men in the backfield. These are the running back records we're going to break. And we're going to kick it off with Ashton Jeanty, Boise State's running back who ran for 267 yards and 6 touchdowns in the Broncos season opener against Georgia Southern. This game was just straight old-fashioned football, as I let Ashton Jeanty do his thing, and he did his thing running all over the Eagles defense, ending with a 486-yard, 9-touchdown performance. But this game is not over yet, because I just need to continue to run the rock if I want to beat the rushing attempts record. It was just a matter of getting down as soon as possible, but I figured I might as well finish it with a touchdown for our 59th rushing attempt of the ball game. The last running back record we need to break is the most rushing yards by 2 players on the same team in the same game. What better duo to break this record than the best running back tandem in the country, Dylan Sampson and Cam Seldon. Again, I just let the boys do their thing. I started with Dylan Sampson at first, and then subbed in Cam Seldon later in the game. They ended up breaking this record with a combined total of 613 yards. I think it's only right that I revisit the record of most receiving yards without a touchdown. And who better to do that with than the team who dropped 70 points with 10 touchdowns in week 1, Washington State. But we're going to be nice and give the kicker some reps, so we're going to try and break Mike Prindle's record too. This one was simple. Keep throwing the ball to Mike Williams, get into range, and kick a field goal. Repeat this process until we break the record. And that's what we did over and over, where we got to the point where Williams had 357 yards with 0 touchdowns. And then it was just a matter of kicking field goals, and after 9 made field goals by Janikowski, we broke the record for most points by a kicker in one single game. You know, if I was smart, I would have done the longest field goal record while I was doing that, but I'm also trying to do YouTube for a living in 2024, so clearly I'm not the smartest. Even with field goal sliders boosted all the way up, this was still quite the challenge. But alas, on my 3rd attempt, we got it done, and secured our 17th record of the video. We are officially on the home stretch of this challenge, but I have a secret way to get these 4 records done in one single game. It's not really a secret, I'm just going to keep punting the ball back to myself with a second controller, and when I beat the yards off punt record, I'll switch to throwing interceptions to myself. And that's basically what I did for the next hour. Punt return touchdowns, pick sixes, offensive touchdowns, you name it, I did it, which brings us to a final score of 225-0. Officially breaking Georgia Tech's record. It's not the only record I broke, like I said, because Jordan Watkins had 280 yards off punt returns, Suntarine Perkins had 7.5 sacks, and Hunter Herring threw 10 interceptions. 21 records down, just these 4 remain. These 3 records all have to be broken in Road to Glory, so I'm recruiting the help of Jimmy Fishsticks, elite quarterback talent who is determined to shatter these records. This one probably won't be able to done with how play calling works in Road to Glory, so I guess we'll save the best for last. Jimmy Fishsticks decided to go back to his home state and play for the Cincinnati Bearcats, where they opened up the season against FCS Southeast with a dominant 444-yard, 6-touchdown performance. But everyone on social media was discrediting his achievement because it was against an FCS school. Well, he shut up the haters next week where he led the Bearcats to a 63-10 win over the Panthers. He replicated his success the week after with a 500-yard, 8-touchdown showing, and the Bearcats were starting 3-0 for the first time since 2021. But the committee was still not ranking us. However, they did put Jimmy Fishsticks on the Heisman watch. That gave him even more motivation to go ball out against the Houston Cougars, where he threw for 410 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also, I don't want to see any comments about how this is on freshman mode and it doesn't count. Yes, it is on freshman mode, obviously. You try breaking all these records on anything other than freshman and let me know how that goes for you. The next week, despite dropping 100 points on a ranked Texas Tech team, the committee still didn't rank us. How does that make any sense? It took another impressive performance against UCF of 461 yards and 4 touchdowns for the committee to finally show us some respect. Next, we go to face Arizona State, which was not even close as Jimmy Fishsticks got pulled at halftime. We are officially over halfway through the season, and our yards per game is looking a little low. But don't worry, he fixed that in the next game where he dropped over 600 yards on the Buffaloes. We have 4 games to go on our schedule, and we still need 2,300 yards and 14 touchdowns. So we need to average 575 yards per game if we want to break this record. We didn't quite get to that mark in our matchup against West Virginia, but we did throw for 6 touchdowns. Iowa State was no challenge as we threw for 523 yards and 6 touchdowns. Jimmy continued his reign of dominance as he led Cincinnati to a 69-40 victory over Kansas State, where he threw for 7 more touchdowns and officially broke Bailey Zappe's record. Also, his yard per game average was over the mark. So with just 1 game to go, we were sitting at 5,300 passing and 450 rushing yards, leaving us 245 yards to beat this record. That was no problem for Jimmy as we set up to face the TCU Horned Frogs. Not only was Fishsticks determined to break this record, He wouldn't let anything get in between him and an undefeated regular season for the Bearcats. Another unfair bomb from Jimmy Fishsticks padded his stats, and this little jet pass from our end zone got us enough yards to feel comfortable, and I could break the record on this drive if I played well. Luckily for me, it only took one more play as I hit another crossing route and he took it to the end zone for the touchdown. Let's see, was it enough? Yes! Jimmy Fishsticks has officially broken Joe Burrow's record of 6,040 yards in one single season. So that is officially 24 records down with 1 to go, and I saved the hardest for last. We need to break the record of 6 touchdowns on 6 consecutive throws. This has to be the craziest record in NCAA history. My plan to do this is run the ball as close as I can to the end zone and then throw it in for a touchdown. That way the only time I throw passes is when I'm super close to the end zone. But it doesn't matter when I have a streak of 0, so I might as well throw a bomb on the first play of the game to get the streak going. We get back into range quickly to try to extend the streak to 2, but he gets leveled and can't hold on to it. This may actually be more difficult than I thought, but we connect with Luther Burden to get our streak of 1 back on the board. It takes a couple run attempts, but we finally get back to 1st and goal where we connect with Luther Burden again. Honestly, I think I'll just keep throwing to him because he's the highest overall, but sometimes another guy is just so wide open that you can't help yourself. A quick turnover and easy connection to Luther Burden puts us up to 4. And our running back is probably going to break some kind of record on his own. But he's not getting any kind of awards for blocking, which caused an incompletion. Honestly, I should have just taken the sack there to keep the streak going. But we got our streak back, and our tight end might be the best guy to throw to, because he just doesn't seem to drop the ball. But I suppose it's not too hard when you're facing a team like Buffalo. But he manages to reel in yet another one, and we drive back down the field, but Luther Burden reels this one in to increase our streak to 4. And this little route seemed to have the defense completely lost. So that brings us to 5, 1 away from the record. And this was about as risky as it gets, but luckily they called it a touchdown. So the streak continues as we tie the record. A little trouble getting back into the red zone, but we get back into range to go for the record. Cook takes the snap, he has to roll out right, he doesn't have much, desperation throw that's caught. 7 touchdown passes in a row. That breaks Brooks Dawson's record as we get our 25th NCAA record of the video. Once again, I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway once we reach it, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. And YouTube really thinks you'll like this video, so make sure to check it out.